Hey everyone. So, if you've ever downloaded an app onto your phone, chances are you got it from one of two places. But what if I told you that's just scratching the surface? Today, we're going to dive deep into the huge and surprisingly complex universe of mobile app stores. Okay, just look at this. Outside of China, which we'll get to, Apple and Google have a lock on a staggering 95% of the market. Yeah, it's basically a duopoly that dictates how almost all of us get our apps. So it's no wonder we think they're the only game in town. And the scale is just mind-boggling. The Google Play Store, the official spot for Android, has something like 3.6 million apps. I mean, think about that. That's like trying to make your one building stand out in a city with 3.6 million others. That's the mountain developers have to climb. Then you've got the other giant, the Apple App Store. Now, it has about half the number of apps, around 1.8 million, but that is still an absolutely enormous ecosystem. And of course, Apple is famous for its strict review process. They really push for quality and security, and that's made their store one of the most trusted places to buy digital stuff in the world. Right, so this leads to the big question, doesn't it? With that kind of market dominance, why on earth would a developer or even a user bother looking somewhere else? Well, the answers are pretty interesting. They involved opportunity, reaching very specific audiences, and even entire countries that play by a completely different set of rules. So let's start with Android. The key thing to know here is that Android is open source, and that openness allows other companies to build their very own app stores. This has created this really fascinating landscape of alternatives to Google Play. And there are some really cool players out there. You've got Aptoide, which is this huge decentralized store with over 1 million apps. There's SlideMe, one of the originals, with a solid global footprint. And then you have platforms like OneMobile, where developers can just give you the APK directly. That's the raw install file for an Android app. And this is what makes a platform like Aptoide so different. Decentralized basically means it's not one giant company calling all the shots. Instead, developers get way more control, more flexibility. They can essentially run their own little storefront. And for some, that's a huge plus compared to the big, heavily regulated stores. Okay, so it's not just about Android alternatives. Some stores aren't locked into a single operating system at all. Their whole goal is to reach people across all kinds of different devices, and some even target really specific niche communities. You can see a few examples here. GetJar is one of the biggest independents out there, and it supports a bunch of systems. The Opera Mobile Store is a major player in emerging markets, where you see a wider variety of devices. And then you've got specialists like Congregate, which is all about one thing: games. And that brings up another really smart strategy: going local. Sometimes big telecom companies will just run their own app stores to serve their subscribers directly. So for a developer trying to break into, say, India or parts of Africa, a store like the Jio App Store or MTN Play could be the perfect entry point. All right, now we have to talk about China, because it is a completely different universe. And it's all because of one single critical fact: the Google Play Store is not available there at all. And that has forced a totally unique and massive app ecosystem to grow from scratch. So who's in charge in China? Well, it's not a software company. It's the companies that make the phones. Huawei, Oppo, and Vivo absolutely dominate the market because they pre-install their own app stores on every single device they sell. So if you want to launch an app in China, you're not going to Google, you're going to them. And the list goes on. Tech giants like Tencent and Baidu have their own huge app stores too. You have the MIUI App Store, 360 Mobile Assistant. It's a super fragmented and incredibly competitive market. It's just a world away from the duopoly we see everywhere else. Okay, so we've seen this huge, complex world, but what does it all mean for you? How do you actually use this information? Let's pivot and talk about a practical playbook for turning all this knowledge into a real strategy. First things first, let's talk money. How much does it cost just to get in the game? Well, with Google Play, it's a simple one-time fee of $25 to set up a developer account. Apple, on the other hand, runs on a subscription model. It's $99 every year. A small difference, but definitely something to think about right from the get-go. So here's the playbook, the game plan. It's actually pretty straightforward. Step 1, you almost always start with the majors, Google and Apple, just to get the biggest reach possible. Step 2, figure out your target regions. If you're trying to reach users in China or India, you gotta explore their local stores. And finally, step 3, look for those niche alternatives that cater to your specific crowd, whether that's gamers, business users, you name it. Okay, so let's just quickly pull all that together. You've got your dedicated Android stores like Google Play and the alternatives. You've got the closed iOS world with just the Apple App Store. And then you have those flexible multi-platform stores that work across different systems.
After all this, it's easy to forget what an app store fundamentally is. For us, the users, it's a safe, central place to find stuff, get updates, and feel secure. And for developers, it's their ticket to a global audience and, maybe most importantly, a payment system people actually trust. They really are vital for both sides.
And that right there is the bottom line. This whole ecosystem looks complicated, but it's not random. Every single platform has its own audience, its own rules, and its own unique opportunities. If you take the time to understand them, you can seriously boost your chances of getting seen and finding success.
So that kind of leaves us with this big open question, doesn't it? We've seen how things like geography and technology have shaped the app stores we use today. But as digital borders keep changing and as we get new devices like VR headsets and smart everything, what will the app stores of tomorrow even look like? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.